Mel, 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 everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. There have been some pretty big news that have come out on Bitfarms over the last couple of months, especially this past weekend and today on Monday. First of all, their CEO was reported to be transitioning out. Started around March, late March or so. And since then, the stock price has just been dropping, pretty drastically over the last couple of months. And finally, on Friday, I believe that the CEO had threatened a lawsuit against the company. And on today, they're supposed to report earnings on Monday, but they end up not doing that. They end up having to postpone this because the person that would have originally been doing the earnings call, which is the CEO of the company, was terminated after threatening a lawsuit on Friday. Now, with this sequence of event, I made a few posts on X. Just basically showing indicators. I didn't really say anything. I'm not telling you to buy. I'm not telling you to sell. I'm not telling you I'm super bullish. I'm not telling you that I'm like super bearish or anything. I'm just showing indicators. And I show some daily indicators. I show some, bi-weekly indicators. I show some monthly indicators. They actually don't look too bad. If you actually look at the fundamentals of the company, the hash rates are fine. Their cost to mine is still doing okay. They are still upgrading their fleets. There's going to be a lot of very conflicting data out there, but this is still a company. They're still mining Bitcoin. They're still doing what they're supposed to. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to leadership. Generally investors in Wall Street, they don't really like that, which is not anything surprising. And I think it's already been reflected on the stock price over the last couple of months with the recent CEO termination. And certainly it's not a good look. It's certainly not good news at all. And with this market environment, you look at a bunch of other stocks that are pumping, including the big cap tech stocks that have been pumping for a very, very long time now, including Bitcoin itself. It's been going through a pretty nice bull trend over the last year, including even a lot of altcoins, including a lot of people even looking at Bitcoin miners, and they look at like GME and AMC that popped like 70% today. They're just kind of wondering like, hey, what am I doing? Am I losing some opportunity cost over here? Why am I being in something like this that has just completely been lagging? A lot of people are underwater. What the heck is going on? Like, what should we do? Now, I'm not here to tell you what you should be doing because I do not know your situation. I do not provide any kind of advice or anything like that. I only show you what I see, and I only can tell you what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm holding. I'm not really buying here. I'm not really selling here. I'm just holding, and I can tell you why that is. Because a lot of people got really super bullish from this leg up all the way from like $1 to getting close to $4. And a lot of people get sucked in during this period of time, and they've been buying up here up top when it was just trying to break above the upper Bollinger Band. It was having a hard time doing it, consolidating sideways. Next thing during this big giant leg up, Bitfarm was actually one of the outperformers during this particular leg up right here. But so far, they're definitely underperforming. A lot of other miners, especially over the last couple of months. Like this down leg over here has been absolutely brutal for a lot of holders. Big part of it is because of leadership transitioning, because of a lot of uncertainty. But the reality is this: because of how bullish it has looked really over the last year and a half, there are a lot of indicators actually looking, more or less favorable for Bitfarms. Now, first of all, if you just look at the Fibonacci level, you just draw it all the way from the cycle top over here around November to the cycle bottom over here in December of 2022. You can see that the Fibonacci level right now, 0.136 is actually at $1.60, which is kind of where we're closing today. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to go down further to like the 1.4 or even potentially lower. Like who knows, right? If you look at the macro picture though, it's just been forming high, higher low, higher high. It's trying to find its higher low, right? How low is the higher low going to be? I don't think anybody really knows. And if you don't like to be in the stock because of the fear and uncertainty and the fact that it's on a downtrend for 3 months, I completely get it. If you want to get out of it, I completely get it. But that's your choice. There's no reason to be upset about it or not, because the downtrend has already happened and the uptrend has also already happened, right? So there's really nothing to regret or nothing to like worry about. You just have to decide what your next move should be. My next move is to hold because I see a 20-month moving average still pointing up. I see the Bollinger Band is actually squeezing a little bit here, but the price is still in the upper part of the Bollinger Band. So it tells me that if it ends up squeezing and ends up expanding, if Bitcoin ends up going higher, if IWM, the small cap, Russell 2000 small cap index going up higher, and once they're able to find some stability and leadership, once they're able to find some direction in terms of where they want to go, this is still a real company. They still have miners, they're still mining Bitcoin, they still have decent hash rate cost to mine, they're still expanding. There is a potential that a lot of things have already been priced in. And again, I'm not saying that this necessarily is a bottom over here, but there are a few potential things I'll show you that, showing you that this may be a confluence of good support right around this area right here, right? First of all, the rising 20-month moving average is pointing up. It could potentially serve support around 1.4. Second order Fibonacci level over here is 1.6, right? And it looks like it's pretty interesting support that you might be finding over here. Third of all, if you just pull up the volume shelf, and what you're going to see is that I'm just going to drag this over here. What you're going to see is that price bounced off of this volume shelf over here. So you're seeing a pretty big giant volume shelf over here as potential support. We've just basically been bouncing between these couple of levels over here, and now we're getting tested like a lower part over here, and we bounced. So there are a lot of confluences of support over here. Now, in addition to looking at the monthly chart, and in addition to looking at the fact that this downtrend over here for about 2.5, 3 months have been on declining volume, if you look at a 2-week chart, I can pull up the Ichimoku cloud over here. You can see the Ichimoku cloud is just kind of inside Ichimoku cloud. Can it go down further, test the bottom of the cloud? There's always that possibility, right? If it ends up doing that, it would still be a macro higher low, right? But it could. There's still some room to kind of go down a little bit further. If you use the Super Ichi cloud, which is a variant of the Ichimoku cloud with taking into account a super trend, you can also see that, hey, interestingly, the bull trend is still there. And right now, it's just kind of touched the bottom of the Super Ichi cloud right here. And so far as balanced, doesn't mean it won't go down further. But again, this downtrend over here for about 3 months has been happening on declining volume. So I think at some point this downtrend is going to end. And this downtrend has been getting weaker and weaker as it goes. But again, just like with any downtrend, there's nobody that can guarantee in terms of what a downtrend is going to happen, when it's going to end. Nobody really knows, right? We pull up some of the other indicators. I'm going to pull up this unbalanced volume. It's going to tell you that this whole thing right here, where price went from like $1 all the way to like $1.50, but there's a huge decrease in this unbalanced volume. This basically tells you that this is a very, very key hidden bullish divergence. This basically telling you there's actually a lot of bullish energy that might be building up from this price going up and from this unbalanced volume going down. This also goes along with the fact that this whole downtrend over here for the last 3 months have been on declining volume. That can be seen very, very clearly, right? Buy big volume, sell declining volume, right? This is very, very, very clear, right? I'm going to go back here to the monthly chart here, kind of tell you in terms of what I'm seeing, in terms of what the whales are doing. And this is going to be like, very confusing to you. And it's also a little bit confusing to me as well, right? How come if you have a sustained uptrend in whale accumulation, you had price going down like this? This happens all the time. If you're familiar with my Mara charts, you actually see this before any potential uptrend. Like for example, during the last cycle, your price just kind of gone down very viciously, actually, from like $5.33 or something like that, going all the way down to like less than $2. Eventually, kind of slow the downtrend over here. During this entire downtrend over here, you can see that there's actually an increase in whale accumulation, right? Very, very similar things actually happening right now with Mara, by the way. So I'm not gonna necessarily rule out that there's still some potential bullishness over here, especially when a lot of things may be starting to get priced in. There's still a lot of uncertainty, right? At a certain point, yeah, I agree. All the posts I post saying fundamentals ultimately still matter, but I do see that the whales haven't really left yet, right? And if you also look at the data from Fintel.io, with the CEO transition news that's already been, kind of pricing in for quite some time, you actually have increased in institutional ownership during these 3 months. This most updated data, like on May. I mean, they obviously a lot of these data may lack like a few weeks because you have to wait for the filing, to the SEC. But you might end up having a little bit of delay. But overall, the trend is still kind of go up, even though the price gone down. And this is also confirmed by the fact that um, on the Black Cat, L3 bank fund flow, we also seeing uptrend of well accumulation here as well, right? So all these things are not really necessarily adding up, and it doesn't necessarily mean that price can go up because the institution can make foolish mistakes as well. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they just because they're buying in is that price is going to go up from here. In addition to that, institutional ownership is still like over 20%, but it's not as high as Mara or as high as CleanSpark, who were getting up to around like 40%, right? So this is still a little bit of like, yeah, I'm not sure in terms of that, but that's another piece of indication that hey, maybe things are not as bad as we put it out to be. Looking at a weekly chart again, you just look at a volume, huge buy volume, declining sell volume. It's just been exhausting, 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 right? And then we had a gap down this week, just so far. It's only been Monday. Could Bitfarm continue to go down further? There's always that possibility, right? There's always that possibility because if you look at the Ishimoku cloud, there's still room for it to potentially go down. 1.4 is going to be right around the top of the cloud, and this was mentioned by my friend, Greg Maspy, on his recent video as well. So the potential of this whole thing is just kind of going way too far, way too fast, and you have to bake in a lot of negative news that are coming in. I have to maybe even backtest the top of the cloud, even go inside the cloud. You could even fall outside of the cloud and get underneath and become real bearish, right? All of these are possibilities, but the volumes in terms of selling look like it's exhausting. A lot of people who wanted to sell seem like have already kind of sold. So it's hard to say, especially when it had like these kind of gap down look to it. It's really hard to say in terms of what the next move will be, right? If you look at the Bollinger Band, I mean, yeah, you already touched the lower Bollinger Band over here. It could go down a little bit further, but generally things are already kind of a little bit getting a little bit overextended on the downside. And I can show you that a little bit more clearly on the daily chart, right? And if the daily chart, you also see that the selling volume has just been exhausting. And if you pull up and zoom in a little bit more closer on the daily chart, you can see that price has just kind of gapped down and closed outside of the lower Bollinger Band. It's just kind of way too far way down during early trading that the lower Bollinger Band serves as gravity to kind of pull price up a little higher, right? Now, just because you have something like this, very similar to things like over here, doesn't mean that it won't go down any further. No, but it could potentially still go down further because the Bollinger Band are expanding, right? But it does put in short-term, how do you say that? Short-term lack of bearish energy because you just can't go way too far, way too fast away from the Bollinger Band. That's just whenever that happens, both bulls will get punished if you buy way too far from the Bollinger Band, and bears will get punished too if they end up selling and short selling, at the far end of the price, way outside of the Bollinger Band, right? So yeah, I mean, a lot of bears might end up getting punished over here, and there's also potential if you want to get out of the stock. There's no guarantee it could keep going down lower, right? But you want to get out of the stock, potentially things might look a little bit, way overextend over here. Maybe there's some room for you to even wait for any kind of potential mean reversion before you get out of it. There's always that possibility. Or if you just want to get out, you don't believe fundamentals, then get out. I don't really care one way or another. But the other things to kind of look at too, I do want to show a few indicators I was showing on X that like got people saying, "Oh, I'm losing respect for you. How can you post something that's bullish?" Well, I see a bullish divergence over here. Price went down and RSI went up. This is a classic bullish divergence. I see it. I see it. Does it mean the price is not going to go down from here? No. I mean, price can go down on bullish divergences all the time. We might even lose a bullish divergence if price goes down like this and RSI just drops down, right? Then we lose the bullish divergence. But I have to report what I'm seeing, and usually when you see bullish divergences, that actually is the time where you start thinking, hey, maybe this is a bottoming behavior because I'm seeing some kind of bullish divergence, right? So that's one thing I'm seeing. The other thing, in addition to RSI, I also see a bullish divergence here with the on-balance volume as well, right? Again, price went down, but on-balance volume went up, right? So I'm seeing a few kind of these bullish divergences that are building up here that wasn't there before, but they're here now, right? So it does make you kind of wonder, interesting. Is this exhibiting some bottoming behavior, or should I sell out of it because fundamentals are just absolutely horrible? There's no leadership transition, smoothness. There's a lot of uncertainty. Who knows what's going to happen, right? But so far, I'm seeing some positivity to it. It's just all it's saying is that a lot of people wanted to sell have already sold. There are still going to be some people who found this news to be absolutely horrible, and they want to sell, and that's completely okay. You do what is best for you, right? Now, again, going back to the weekly here, do some of the other indicators show anything interesting, right? I do actually on the weekly time frame instead of like a classic bullish divergence that I was showing you, which you actually only see in the daily, you don't really see in the weekly, but on the weekly you see something else. You see a strong hidden divergence that's been building up with price kind of going up, right? From here up to here, and the RSI have reset it from here down here. So this is also a very, very classic kind of hidden bullish divergence here too. Again, can price go down on these hidden bullish divergences? It absolutely can, right? There is nothing to tell you that price won't go down any further. But again, they're around like 1.6, 1.4, somewhere around there. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting convergence of a lot of different supports over here. All these supports can get broken down. Don't get me wrong, right? But I just wanted to point out the things I'm seeing. I do want to say that I'm not buying here anymore because I'm happy with the number of shares that I have. I just don't really need to buy anymore. At this point, I'm more interested in maybe allocate my funds somewhere else. But I'm also not really selling here because of a lot of the things that I'm seeing. And that's just kind of how I would play this. There's no guarantee. I hope that this video is helpful for you to make your decision. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. People disagree, cats disagree all the time. We get into cat fights all the time. No big deal. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.